Imagine becoming president at just 33 years of age. You slash down your own salary, you sell off government properties, you vaccinate millions of children, and you tell other African leaders to stop depending on Europe. People begin calling you Africa's greatest hope. Then one afternoon, you walk into a meeting with your best friend, and minutes later, you are lying in your own pool of blood. Only for the next day, your best friend takes over the country. And for the next 27 years, nobody dares to question what happened during that time. This is the story of Thomas Sankara. And by the end of this video, you understand why nearly 40 years later, Africans still refer to him as the president they never got to keep. Let's get into it. You see, Thomas Sankara wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't the son of the president. He was just a young captain in the military. He was from a country called Upper Volta at that time, a very small country that nobody noticed. But Sankara was different. He believed something very radical. He believed that Africans were not poor because they were lazy, but because of their total dependence on Europe and the high level of corruption at home. In 1976, he became a commander at a training center, and he formed a secret organization called ROC. These were made up of young military men who also had the same ideas and beliefs as Thomas did. Some of the popular members of these secret organizations were Henry Zongo, Blaise Compaoré, Jean-Baptiste, and of course, Thomas Sankara. I'm sure I must have murdered a lot of names here, but let's keep going. While Thomas went about his duties, in 1981, he was appointed as the Minister of Information, but he refused to behave like his predecessors. Instead of riding the cars that were provided to him as a minister, he would rather ride his bike every day to work. Instead of censoring journalists, newspapers, with the kind of information that they spread out, he would rather encourage them to go more into investigative journalism. If you were a journalist at that time trying to uncover a truth, Thomas will support you with every resources that you need. He will tell you, go deep, investigate, let us know what happened, and give you all the necessary backings until the truth was revealed. That was the kind of minister he was. Because of this approach of his, scandals, government scandals were being reported both by private journalists and international journalists. So it wasn't really looking good on the government. The next year, 1982, he decided to resign because of some controversial policies that the government at that time was propagating. Thomas did not agree with it, and he decided to resign from the government. In that same 1982, Thomas would not let the leaders rest. He kept on pushing for more reforms that could better the lives of the people of Upper Volta. And people saw how courageous he was. The people could feel that Thomas was somebody who was seeking for the betterment of the people. And so they gave him his support, despite the fact that he was not in any political position as at that time. With all of this unrest happening because of Thomas, he got imprisoned in that same 1982 by the then president of the country. But this arrest was not like the usual arrest that would normally happen at Upper Volta, because now Thomas had the support of the people, especially the young military officers. They would not let the government rest. They started making noise. There was a lot of unrest. Thomas had to be released. That was the demand of the young military officers and even the people in general. So here comes his best friend, Blaise. Blaise was his ally, his right-hand man. They had planned a lot of things together. And when Blaise saw that Thomas had already stirred up something in the people, he used the opportunity to galvanize the young officers and other members of that secret organization, ROC. And so they led another coup in 1983. They overthrew the government at that time, and then Thomas became the president of Upper Volta. At just 33 years of age, he came into power through the aid of his best friend, Blaise. While as president of this country, Thomas did things differently. Unlike other African leaders, he refused any form of luxury. Do you know that as at that time, Thomas refused to use air conditioner in his office because he felt like he was only preserved for the 1% of the 1% of the population. And if his people could not readily afford to use conditioning in their spaces, then he does not deserve that. He reduced ministers' salaries. He cut down on unnecessary spendings. He replaced official cars with very modest ones. He would meet this minister and say, you would have to bring that to your Jeep. Let us replace it. I'll give you a Camry. I'll give you a Peugeot. He insisted that every leader should live closer to the people. So instead of living in a secluded area for the upper 1%, he said, no, come down at the center where the people are and live there so that you can understand their pain and govern well. But that wasn't all he did though. He launched the largest vaccination program in the whole of Africa at that time. This vaccination campaign was aimed at eradicating polio, meningitis, and measles. And as at the time he came into power, about 2 million children were vaccinated, went into agriculture and stopped the importation of foreign food. He said, we needed to grow our own food. We can be self-sufficient. And so what did he do to actually stabilize the agricultural sector of his country? He apportioned 71% of investment spending budget into agriculture. With this much money going into agriculture, the people saw it and they started offering labor voluntarily. They built dams, irrigation sites, basically built the agricultural sector from the ground below. It was only 4 years later that a UN journalist came into Upper Vote and said the country was already food self-sufficient. They didn't need any external help or any imported products for the people of Upper Vote to be able to feed well. When it came to women, Thomas was hands-on. He was particularly interested in women empowerment. He made the women join military. He said, no, you can't be sitting down at home without contributing anything to the society. He said that there was no true social revolution that could happen without the liberation of women. He opposed forced marriages. He said no woman should be forced to marry if she doesn't want to get married. He removed every ban on contraceptive. He said if women don't want to give birth, then they should be allowed not to. And then what of female genital mutilation? He cancelled that. Anybody caught practicing that act was going to pay dearly for it. He encouraged women to go for political positions. He appointed them in his cabinet. He was one of the foremost African leaders to actually give women a voice in his country. Then on the 4th of August 1984, he changed the name of the country from Upper Vote to Burkina Faso, meaning the land of upright people. He gave it a new flag, new coat of arms, and personally wrote the anthem by himself to reflect his dreams and aspirations for the people of Burkina Faso. But then, in all of this, he started doing something that was considered very controversial. He started speaking to African leaders, propagating that they should reduce their dependence on their colonial masters. He openly criticized foreign debts. He spoke against IMF, the World Bank. He said, do not collect money from these people. African countries can be self-sufficient because he who feeds you controls you. And he tried to take that movement to every other African countries. Now, by doing this, he got a lot of evil eye on his back from countries like France, amongst others. To many young Africans, he became a hero, but to some others, he became a problem that had to be removed. Every story comes with a great twist, and this twist came in form of Thomas's friend, Blaise. He wasn't Thomas' rival, he was his best friend, he was his ally, his brother that Thomas trusted more than any other person in his government. They ate together, fought together, planned together, and for years, nobody could separate this tight bond until the 15th of October 1987. You see, Thomas was attending a meeting with 12 other people one afternoon, and then he was ambushed by gunmen everywhere. They opened fire, and just within minutes, Thomas and 12 other of his comrades were laying dead. He was only 37 years old when he died. His wife and children, his entire family had to flee the country at that time because they didn't know what was happening. And the next day, his own best friend, the man he trusted more than any other person, Blaise, declared himself as the new president of Burkina Faso. When he came, he started overturning every single policy and plans and arrangements that his best friend Thomas, who was the former president of the country, made. He said Thomas created a lot of enemies for the country, and he started fixing those relations with European countries and other neighboring countries that stood against Thomas's revolutionary ideas at that time. When people saw this pattern, questions, whispers started to trip in. How did Thomas really die? Was it just a coup, or was his best friend involved in his death? But there was nobody bold enough to come up and ask those questions. Throughout the 27 years, while Blaise led the country, the family of Thomas would not really keep quiet. They would keep on poking, asking the questions that needed to be asked. Why did Thomas die? How did he die? How come you, as the best friend, is not interested in investigating the death of your so-called best friend? With his family continuously asking these questions, human rights groups, investigative journalists started also pressing in. But Blaise sat on it. He didn't let the question leave that particular room for 27 years. Then in 2014, there was mass protest in Burkina Faso, and Blaise had no choice other than to leave office. He had to flee Burkina Faso. The protest was serious, and once he left Burkina Faso, The questions that people had been looking for answers finally came into light. Something that has seemed impossible for the past 27 years finally happened. The investigation into Sankara's death was reopened 35 years later. Imagine waiting for 35 years to get justice. That was what Thomas's family did. They waited for 35 whole years. In 2021, a trial began. The former president Blaise and some other comrades were charged. They were charged in connection of the assassination of Thomas Sankara. But Blaise maintained innocence all throughout the trial. He said he wasn't responsible for his best friend's death and nobody could pin that on him. But then in 2022, April to be exact, he was sentenced by the then military government of Burkina Faso for Sankara's assassination and sentenced to life imprisonment. For the people of Burkina Faso, that wasn't the end of the story. It was the first time the justice system had formally acknowledged responsibility after decades of unanswered questions. Let me leave you with this. Thomas Sankara once said, while revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, you cannot kill ideas. And maybe he was right. Because today, almost 40 years after his death, young Africans in Burkina Faso still wear his face on their shirts. They still talk about him. They still tell his stories to the younger generations. Students still quote his speeches. A lot of leaders are still being compared to him. While his friend, Blaise, is being remembered as the one who ended the revolution that could have taken Burkina Faso to a whole new level. Maybe that's the strange thing about history, because power can silence a person, but sometimes it only makes their ideas louder. If you enjoyed this story, do well to follow, share, and subscribe. Bye.